Strong.
Yeah, okay.
Strong.
Okay, so we'll start again how you started.
Okay, I'm King Sean, House of Von Dehn, Hand of Stephen, Kingdom of God, and I'm speaking today in the city of Ottawa, and I swear that everything I say is true and accurate to the very best of my knowledge.
And the date?
The date would be October 17th, and 2018.
Okay. Now, have you ever stayed in the Salvation Army homeless shelter for men in Ottawa?
I have. I have been staying at the Ottawa, or the Salvation Army Booth Center since roughly the middle of June of 2017.
Okay, would you like to share that experience with us?
I would actually. I found it to be honest, far worse than I would have expected it to be for homeless people, especially in the nation's capital. One situation that has been particularly disturbing is that the Salvation Army is literally infested with bed bugs, and the general manager, Jason Provost, seems to have absolutely no regard or concern for that with respect to his clients. I filed a complaint with him about the situation and told him how bad it really was, and asked if there was any intention of doing anything about it. He's failed to comment or respond to any of my letters, and my greater concern is that not only is he basically subjecting all of the clients to such deplorable sleeping conditions that they can hardly get any sleep even when they're in bed. You know, try to imagine what it's like to try and sleep when you've got things crawling all over you. But he also doesn't make sure that anybody's deloused before he sends them into new housing. So people are coming and going all at the time, spreading this epidemic throughout the city of Ottawa. So this is going to get into the housing units and the apartment units. And now I understand why this stigma has been created about homeless people for so long, because they're subject to this condition that they are completely powerless to change. And that creates a stigma where people don't want to move them into their places because they're afraid that they're going to bring these things in. And yet nobody's talking about it. The media doesn't want to bring this up. Jason doesn't want to respond to any of these comments. And even the public relations officer, Caroline Franks, is the public relations officer, and I've sent her a couple of letters, and she's failed to respond. So on top of not, honoring the dignity and worth of the people in the building, they don't even have the dignity and courtesy to respond to their clients who write them a letter of complaint. So I don't know how they feel they're treating people. I don't understand how they consider themselves any kind of reflection of a spiritual institution that is actually supposed to be taking care of the spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being of the clients.
Excellent.
Are there any times when you've witnessed violence there?
Oh, continuously. Honestly, a couple of months ago, literally had to watch a man get carted out of the basement of the Salvation Army with a green-handled knife in his back, and blood pouring all down. His back was uncovered because it was on the gurney or whatever. And this is the kind of thing that people in the Salvation Army are subject to witnessing, and also subject to being a part of. You have no idea when that could be you. The guy was allegedly stabbed because he made too much noise going into his locker. That was the rumor anyway, and of course nobody knows what the true story is with respect to that, and we're never told. And so, how they're expecting anybody to improve their situation and get into a better situation when they're actually subject to a condition that is deteriorating the mental health and well-being of their personality is beyond me.
Do they offer you any help for getting housing or employment?
They haven't helped me with anything at all so far. In fact, just recently, they literally handed me all of the paperwork myself because I explained to them that I'm more than capable of doing it myself. But I mentioned that to Caroline Hartz, who's one of the Salvation Army social workers. Within the first couple of weeks that I was there, I was like, look, just give me the contact information for anybody that provides, subsidy or whatever for housing. That's all I need. It's not a matter of anything else except not having the funding that is necessary to get into housing. I don't know if most people understand this in Canada, but we pay a lot of tax dollars, and with that tax dollar, the Ministry of Community and Social Services seems to think that $370 is more than sufficient to get somebody in Ottawa into a one-bedroom or bachelor apartment. I'd like to know anybody who can find a bachelor or one-bedroom apartment in this city for $370. It just doesn't happen.
Now, what about drug use? Have you seen any drug activity at the Salvation Army?
Unfortunately, that is one byproduct of the Salvation Army that is pretty continuous. I would say that roughly speaking, 70% of people there, or more maybe, are probably subject to some kind of addiction. And, that's another issue altogether. Those individuals are not getting the help that they need. There's no services for that kind of help because instead of providing support and resources for those individuals, they basically criminalize it. And, I don't know, people are continuously spoken to with a condescending, demeaning tone by kitchen staff especially. You dare ask for something else in the kitchen. And really, I've been watching for a long time now, and it seems to me that the less capable you are of speaking for yourself, the more deplorably you're going to be treated because they get away with it. And they know that these people who have mental health issues and whatever are never going to raise a complaint. They're never going to say anything. And when I try and bring these things up with management, they try to pretend that I don't exist or my opinion doesn't matter. And so, as funny as it might sound to say that I'm King Sean, House of Von Van Hand, Stephen, Kingdom of God, this is actually a position that's observed by Canada's Attorney General. And my duty is to make sure that I'm protecting the rights and dignity of the Canadian people and making sure that our tax dollars are being spent responsibly. And that is clearly not happening. And this institution is one of those examples. And I've explained to Jason and Caroline Franks that if they don't respond to my letter, then I'm going to hold each of those individuals personally accountable for trespassing on the rights and dignity of the Canadian people. And if the Salvation Army wants to defend those two individuals, then I will file a claim against the entire organization because they certainly don't emulate their mission statement in any way, shape, or form, and I don't even believe they're trying to.
Now, when you mentioned that there's drug use, have you seen the drug use?
Oh yeah, it's go to the second floor anytime after say 11:30, 12 o'clock midnight, and there will be people in the bathroom shooting up in the stalls, doing crack in the bathroom, sometimes in the shower stalls, marijuana, everything, smoking cigarettes sometimes in the bathroom, whatever. I don't know why. I literally went into the bathroom one night at 1 o'clock. It was standing room only, and everybody was smoking crack and marijuana and in the stalls. Like, they must know that that stuff's going on, and yet they do nothing about it. They say that, there's not supposed to be any drugs on premises, and yet every single stall on the second floor has a needle disposal unit in the stall. So they're telling you they don't want you doing drugs in the stall, but they've got a needle dispensary right beside you. Isn't that a little bit of an oxymoron? Now, they also apparently have told the Ottawa police that people are not allowed to hang out in the front of the Salvation Army, and that's why they've put up no loitering signs. And yet Jason Provost specifically directs people to an area that they call the smoking area where the no loitering signs are. So he's actually directing them to a place where the police are known to go and harass these individuals. It's almost like entrapment and collusion.
What about drug dealing? Did you see any drug dealing?
No, I do and I don't. That's a really tough thing to comment on because I know that there's people who do, but I turn a blind eye to it. The less I know, the better it is for me, and it's just not something I am involved in and don't want to be involved in, but absolutely. I mean, if 70% or more of the people there are addicted to drugs, they're getting the supply from somewhere. So whether or not those individuals actually stay at the Salvation Army or whether or not those individuals just go there as a source of customers or a customer base or whatever, there's absolutely that going on.
Now, if somebody was to come to you and ask you specifically what help do you need at this time in order to facilitate your housing, what would you say to them? What would you want?
I would say all I need is subsidy. I need basically the difference between $370 and maybe $8 or $750 or whatever it is that would be, and I'm a very modest man. I would be happy with a very, very, modest bachelor apartment, but I want something that's, worthy of human dignity. And I think that's what anybody does want, and we all deserve that. So, that's all I'm going to do. And basically, I'm going to be sending a disclaimer to the registry of the City of Ottawa, and I'm going to tell them that I'm actually in this situation under duress because the Ministry of Community and Social Services doesn't seem to acknowledge their responsibility to provide these resources for the people. And so now I'm turning to the registry to basically pick up, the slack from the duty that the Ministry of Community and Social Services should be fulfilling.
Now, one other thing, what do you think of the plans to build a 350-bed Salvation Army mega shelter on Montreal Road?
Well, I'll say this, and I'm going to direct this directly to Jason Provost, because Jason Provost did say to me in passing one day, he said, Sean, I understand your concern with the bedbug situation, but you understand that this facility is just too big to make sure that it stays clean and bedbug free. And I thought to myself, really, well, if that's the case, then how are you going to manage with 300 and something people in this mega shelter that you're proposing? So I would say that Jason Provost has to demonstrate that he and or the management team that takes over for him, if he's expelled from his job, which I think he should be, prove that they actually can run a shelter that's actually clean, worthy of human dignity, and then maybe we'll consider a proposal for granting. But right now, I wouldn't support any kind of shelter that's going to basically emulate the jail-like conditions that are currently subject to the Salvation Army. Did you know you can't even control the water temperature in the shower? You get whatever they give you. It's a push button. It sprays down. You can't change the force of the water. You can't change the temperature of the water. You don't even have privacy. You don't have privacy to shower. You don't have privacy to sleep. You know, and I think that for mental health, everybody needs to have their own space where they can just even collect their thoughts for a few minutes a day.
Exactly. Now, I just want to ask one more question, and it's with regard to a model of service to homeless persons called Housing First.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of this.
Yeah, and as I understand, what they do is they try to use emergency shelter placements as limited as possible. They try to hit for around 10-day maximum, and then they accord an intensive amount of support from some worker who assists in trying to establish safe and affordable housing, which I think that's what I understand that you're looking for. You're not just looking for a place, you're looking for a place that you can sustain yourself, where there's not, you know, deplorable conditions and or too expensive. So it's safe and affordable. Yeah. And then if there is any need, it doesn't sound like in your situation there'd be any ongoing need, but in some cases there's ongoing need where there's other mental health issues or drug addictions and things like that. So they also provide that. That's part of it. So the idea is to help them establish and maintain housing.
Absolutely.
And furthermore, sorry, just one more thing. Furthermore, according to the research, it says that this model of providing services is actually much more successful in terms of getting people off the street, as well as a fraction of the cost to operate.
Absolutely, it would be. Now, I don't want to say for sure, but from what I hear anyway, and if you want to know exactly, you know, I would recommend interviewing Jason Provost and the managers over at the Salvation Army to find out how much exactly. But from an initial discussion with Jason last year, he indicated that the Salvation Army receives $1,250 a month per person for everybody that's taking a bed there. So if that's the case, then why does anybody have $1,250 to give to a shelter that's subjecting people to deplorable conditions, but they don't have the $1,250 to get somebody into a dignified place to live?
You know the new shelter, what the budget is for that? $3,500 per month per bed.
Really?
Yeah.
See, so I don't think $1,250 is really that. I mean, it sounds outrageous, but that's probably exactly what it is. And then he told me that there's an additional amount that they get compensated for every meal that they serve. So, you know, everybody seems to think that these people should be grateful for the fact that they have, you know, somewhere to stay and something to eat in the morning. Nobody should be grateful for being subject to horrible sleeping conditions and basically kitchen staff that, I mean, some of them are amazing. So this is, you know, but there's a couple of people there that get away with being rude to staff on a regular basis and nothing is ever said or done.
Well, I'm really appreciating you taking the time to give us this statement. Thank
I
you very
appreciate
much.
you taking the time to do this interview. Let's hope it gets some attention. Thank you.
Now, unfortunately, I don't think it went live, but I can put that